Can this movie be saved? Is there a cure? Morbius is next.
Michael, what have you done?
I was trying to help people. But the cure.
It's a curse.
Michael.
I have powers that can only be described as superhuman. But there's a cost. Now, I face a choice. To hunt and consume blood. Or die.
We all have monsters within us. It's up to us to control it.
Welcome to Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. My name is Robert Moda. I am your host, and with me I have Ralph Levy.
How's everybody doing?
Awesome. How are you doing, bud?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Ironically, as much as I really couldn't wait to get out of the movie theater, really looked forward to having the review and chat with you about it after the fact.
So today is going to be one of those episodes where we are going to review the movie Morbius, which just came out. So that one's going to be interesting. It's been getting a lot of buzz, and not the best buzz actually out there, but so right now it's today is Wednesday, April 6th, 2022, and so that's when this is being recorded. So anything that happens after this, after we post this up, we want to make sure that that we were doing it on this day. So
yeah, just in case the world goes to complete shit and this is a found recording 20 years from now.
The world ends and all of a sudden they find this recording and aliens find it, right?
Yeah.
That would be funny.
As across the pond, we have Korea and Russia losing their marbles right now.
Oh my God, man. The whole world is going crazy.
And here we are watching Morbius.
Which, ironically is also another world that, another world in Marvel and Sony and all that. That's upside down. So anything you've watched lately?
No, I've been keeping up. I kept up with the Halo stuff, the second episode, and I tell you, I want to go back and watch it again because I missed some of it. I get too amped up because like my son is really big into Halo, and I sit there and people watch. I watch him enjoy it, and then I don't really pay attention to the story. So
that's actually a lot of fun, man. I mean, that must be really cool to watch him.
He lights up. I mean, he probably shouldn't be watching it because of how graphic it can be, but. Dude, like literally as we see everything in the world around us like, falling apart, like I'm like, it could be worse. Like honestly, like I saw, like, I mean, I watched Eddie Murphy Raw when I was like 7 years old, so like,
oh wow,
I turned out all right.
Yeah, no, one thing I noticed is that when I first started watching Halo, and I saw the spoilers, as a matter of fact, for those who haven't seen it, the people in the front, the group of kids in the beginning, all of a sudden they get blown up and there's limbs missing and all these things. I was like, this is not for kids.
Oh yeah,
not at all.
They went bananas. My wife was not impressed. So I'm like, he's just seen the laser blast. He's not even looking at the people's leg getting flying off against the tree. Not a big deal.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, yeah. No, that's cool. I've actually. You know what I got to see last night? I just for some reason I wanted to see it again. Was Life of Pi. It's a good movie. I mean, that's not a bad movie at all.
I honestly own it. I've never watched it.
Really? Yeah. No. Visual. It's a great movie, and visually, it's really really striking. So definitely, I would definitely watch that.
Some other big news today was the release of tickets for Doctor Strange.
That was today?
That was today. They had a virtual queue that you had to join in. It took me like, I don't know, a good 30 minutes. I got in to get tickets, and the app kept on crashing on me, but I was able to get 2 tickets for
Oh,
the
wow.
first showing.
You know what? I mean, I'm going to check right now to see if I could actually get my hands on it as we talk on a podcast.
Yeah, they have
I'm going to
Cinco de Mayo, bro. 3:00 is the first showing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, shoot.
Something else is open for. I don't remember. I know Sonic the Hedgehog opened, so I'm gonna probably take my kid to go see that next week. That looks like it's decent.
Yeah, I mean the first movie got really good reviews on it.
I enjoyed it.
It wasn't really bad.
It was. That's like honestly the. Oh yeah, there's still a bunch of seats left. I'm in the front section in front of the handicapped people.
For when Thursday?
For Thursday at 3:00. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ooh. Yeah, I see that they don't have anything.
I don't know if you were interested. They have a screening for another movie. What was that Nick Cage movie we were talking about?
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, really that's actually that looks very entertaining, man.
Massive
I have
talent.
to say.
Yeah. So they have a special screener like 9 days before it's actually released and for shareholders, and I think I got 2 tickets to that one. I don't remember.
Wow.
But I still don't know if I'm gonna go see it or not. Like I'm interested in seeing it, but I don't know if I'm gonna go to the theater to watch it.
Right.
And then so Sonic's coming out, so that's gonna be interesting. I mean, that's definitely like just a go see a movie. And
let me tell you, the funny thing about that is, like I said, it's one of those movies that a lot of people didn't give it that much thought, saying, "Oh, it's probably going to be garbage or something like that," and it actually turned out to be pretty good. A lot of people did, enjoy it and stuff like that.
I don't know if you know the story behind it, but like Morbius, they could have learned a lot from it, because it ended up in the same bin of like having to be postponed due to the pandemic, like when it started.
Right.
And the trailer was released, and the animation for Sonic, the character, was so disturbing.
Yes, it had human teeth.
Yeah.
So they gave it human teeth and like almost because the character of Sonic has those big eyes. So they try to make them more realistic, I think. Like, giving it, I mean, let me tell you, the internet went in an uproar when they saw that.
It was, oh my God, I'm looking at it right now. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And they gave more of a human body too, which is weird.
Yeah, no, everything was weird about it. But you know what? I mean, once, I believe once Sony saw that people were going apeshit over it, they spent like, I think, millions of dollars trying to go back and redo that character.
I tell you what, it would have worked for Morbius because they could have redid a lot of stuff in this movie.
This is gonna be a very interesting review because you saw it, I saw it, Joe didn't see it, so Joe's not on the podcast today, but Joe didn't see it, and he's getting ready to go on vacation, so he's a
punk. He had better things to do.
Yeah, he's kind of checked out right now. But what's interesting is that he's like, yeah, if it's garbage, I'm not gonna see it. So he didn't even want to review it. He just like, no, I'm gonna try to keep my my brain away from that. He just wants to do some heavy drinking. In his vacation.
I went and saw it solely to see like how they were gonna like bring up like, because like one of those movies like kind of like the Eternals were like, it's MCU stuff but not super tied in. It's like charting a new chapter, and I wanted to see if like it had other pieces. So like, because like MCU, you can see every movie is a standalone, but there's certain things that tie things together that makes it more interesting as the story evolves and like more characters cross over, so you understand why someone's in this movie, like why Spider-Man's in, Doctor Strange, and why,
Right.
Thor's with Hulk, and like you start to understand the storylines much better, and you become more engrossed in the characters. And like that's what I was hoping with this, and boy was I fooled.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we'll get right into this review. So yeah, so for you folks out there, there is gonna spoilers are ahead. But yeah, so this is our review for Morbius. So Morbius is actually a comic book character that was done by Marvel. And it's a fictional character. He's supposed to be a doctor that actually got had a bloodborne disease or something like that, and then he was trying to find a cure for it, and he somehow made himself into a vampire. So they call him the living vampire because he's actually not dead. So he does not have things like I would say like those things where like a vampire can't see the reflection off a mirror, or he could actually be around during the day. So but yeah, so yeah, this was actually created by Marvel. And I believe it was created by Roy Thomas and Gil Kane for Amazing Spider-Man number 101. Amazing, really cool thing about that was that they created that character. So, do you know how this character came about?
I don't. Like, I was afraid to look it up to make this movie that much worse.
So, here's the interesting thing. So, you've heard of the comic code, right?
No.
The comic code. Remember that they used to have this little, this little stamp in the corner of every comic book called
yes. I'm sorry.
The comic code or something like that. So, I mean, this was kind of this thing was a big deal back then, because what happened was that with the comic code, they didn't allow things like anything that was supernatural, anything that was horror, could not be published. Anything with, any information about drugs or homosexuality or sex, whatever it was, it had to be freaking wholesome, or it had to be so over the top that it was cartoony.
Right.
So the comic code, when they started to allow vampires, or I think one of the things they said was that to get around the comic code, he wasn't a vampire, he was not a dead vampire, he was a living vampire kind of thing. So it was one of those things where, yeah, so they, so that's how that came about. And then this was one of the stories that Stan Lee didn't write. So when he didn't write it, they asked these two guys to come up with something, and then that's what they came up with, which was, and actually, if you ever look at the cover of Spider-Man 101, Spider-Man has basically 6 arms. So he was an actual spider.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah. So yeah, very interesting how that came about. And then it was actually, from what I've been reading, I guess in development hell or something like that. Not development hell, but they've been trying to come up with it. It actually made an appearance, believe it or not, in Blade, the movie. So there is a deleted scene where at the end of the movie, Blade looks out into the sunset, and above a building, there is a figure there. And that figure is actually Morbius. And the director of Blade at the time, I forgot who the guy's name is, he was going to actually bring that character in Blade 1, but then he said, okay, then I'll bring him in Blade 2, but he never did Blade 2. So he never came about. So, but yeah. So that was his kind of like start there, which was interesting. When I read that, I was like, oh, okay.
That's already a better story than this movie, though.
Huh?
That's already a better story than this whole movie.
I mean, look, man, if they would have actually have Blade in the movie, or you know how they tease Blade at the end of Eternals?
That was the best part of the movie.
So for those of you listening, again, spoilers if you haven't seen Eternals, and Eternals is part of in our list of movies to review. So yeah, no, that movie, towards the end, the voice that you hear is Blade.
And it's the actual same actor from the TV show, correct?
Correct.
My
Well,
man
from
from Onyx.
who?
He was in the band Onyx. The
He's the
hip-hop
guy
group.
that came out in a Daredevil.
Right. Mahershala Ali.
Okay. Yes, him. So, yeah. So they were gonna go. They were actually going to. They were gonna show him, I guess, in the end, but they didn't. Which I think that was that's another. Like, again, that's part of the review that we'll do later for that. But they should have shown that character, and they didn't. But I think it would have been cool if they are gonna make a Blade movie, that they should have put Morbius in this. But so yeah. So this movie. So funny enough, this movie right now, as of today, and again, today's date is April 6th. As of today, it has made $88.7 million out of a $75 million budget. So it runs 104 minutes, so it's not actually very long. I mean, usually superhero movies tend to run a little longer. And it stars Jared Leto, Matt Smith, Adria Arjona, I hope I got that right, Jared Harris, Al Madrigal, and Tyrese Gibson, and a few other people that, are not that important, I guess. So here's the thing, man. I mean, let's just get into this, because, I mean, this movie, when I sat there and I started watching the movie, I was like, well, okay, this is kind of starting pretty good. And then somehow it took a different turn. What did you think about this?
Joe, well, hold on. Like, I tell you, after our last session, like I was pretty sick, man. It was bad. I know you got to hear the recording of me hacking for like an hour.
I had to erase a lot of coughing, but I was tempted on leaving it in, but yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it. So I went in fully expecting, because I already heard the rumblings that it was mediocre, and I was like, whatever. Like I like the Blade movies. I like all three of them. Like there's technically they are super flawed. But I do Wesley Snipes' character in that movie is just beyond, like, the writing for him is just beyond like anything you would have expected at the time, with how comical it could be, and like just some of the things, like
Right.
why are motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill, and oh man, I like when he says things in there that you think out loud while you're watching a movie, and
Right.
the guy's like, oh, but if I tell you so and so is good, motherfucker, I'll kill you, and it's like, oh man, he literally took the words out of my head. This is great. They also had really, really good soundtracks too, which was, par for the course a lot. With, like, I tell you what, man, if I go back in time and you go to late 90s, early 2000s, like, I own a lot of movies. Like, I don't think I bought a movie. I don't think I purchased a movie soundtrack that like wasn't Disney in like 20 years. But like from like 97 to 2001, I have probably like 30 or 40 CDs that are movie soundtracks, because they were just always like on fire. They always had different music. It was mixed up really well.
Right.
But back to this. So yeah, so like I went in thinking, is it gonna be the same thing where it's like I'll enjoy it, and I didn't hate it. Like, it wasn't painful like the Eternals, like, because like the Eternals, like, don't get me wrong, is, if I watched it, and if they made the Eternals and I think we talked about this already, we'll go into that deeper when we review it. But I think if that movie was made into one of the series that they have on Disney Plus, it would have been wildly better, because they could have fleshed out the characters, had more time. That movie needed 8 hours, and they
that movie has 3. Too many characters. Yeah, but no, actually, this movie, like Morbius, is, you're right. Morbius is, it's funny when you start to think about how the MCU basically started, and it, everybody says, oh well, it started with Iron Man, which, yes, is true, for the Marvel universe, cinematic universe. But going back further, I would say Blade is one of the first movies to really launch a comic book character in movies and actually make it be successful, for Marvel.
And not only just like, it took a character that no one knew who the hell he was.
Exactly.
And made money. Versus like something like X-Men. X-Men already had a cartoon show that was run for however many, like
X-Men had a huge
years.
following, and people knew who the X-Men were, and it actually took a long time to actually even bring the
asked
X-Men
for that movie. Like
Yes.
no one asked for a Blade movie; it just came out, and people were like,
No,
"Holy
absolutely.
shit, this was cool."
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. So it was one of those movies where you said, okay, you know what, the X-Men, they finally, found a way to put it on. But Blade just came on, and not only that, but here's the thing that really got to me about that is that Blade was rated R. So, of course, I know, and it still made money. So I know this movie is one of those movies that, everybody wants, or at least, Sony wants everybody to go to it. But this movie should have been rated R also. This is what I would call a very expensive B movie.
100%
And
agree.
it could have been better, one, making it rated R. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you noticed that in some of the moments that Morbius actually killed some of the soldiers in the on the ship in the beginning, they held their necks as if like, and they kind of lingered in those shots more than they should have. And the thought is that they had probably blood effects on there, and they actually erased those out. It seems like the directors and Sony. So so let's get into this. I mean, Morbius, this film, this is Sony's attempt to have their own Spider-Man universe. And from what I gather is that they just don't know how to make a superhero movie or a comic book movie. They were successful with the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire because you know what? It was pretty good. But in the end, their design, when it comes to designing villains, they always miss the mark. The only thing they actually got right, I think, was Dr. Octopus. Other than that, everything from the Green Goblin to their version of Venom on that, the Lizard, Sandman was actually pretty good too. So
I'll fight you over Venom. I'll fight you.
For what? For the Tobey Maguire Venom?
The actual character made more sense than the Venom in the Venom movie, but I mean, I love Tom Hardy, but like, man, we won't.
I'm talking about
touch Venom.
I'm talking about the original Spider-Man. I'm talking about the Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
So I mean, the way they bought that character, the problem with Venom, and here's the problem. So in the comic books, Venom came about because Spider-Man went off-world, with almost every superhero in Marvel, and so while they had their war in another planet, the symbiote, he basically he found the symbiote. He didn't even know what it was. He just knows that all of a sudden he had this black suit, and that's all it was. And of course, once Reed Richards found out that it's feeding off of him, that's when he tried to take the suit off, and then it took like him fighting, I think, with this is a long time ago because I remember this. I don't remember very well, but I think there was like a bell tower or something like that, and the sound of that made the symbiote actually come off his body or something like that. And then of course he found either Eddie Brock or I forgot who else he found, but that origin will never be told ever, because you had the Avengers, you had the Fantastic Four, you had Spider-Man, you had all these things in a world, that Secret War world, that they did. So they could never make that, that origin. So every time they're just retconning his origin, which kind of sucks. But that being said, they didn't. I always feel like Sony always misses the mark on how to make a good villain. Andrew Garfield, he was a great Spider-Man, I think, but again, the movies just missed the mark. And so this is Sony's way of trying, because Disney has been so successful at doing the Spider-Man movies. Again, I will keep repeating this. you have a visionary, you have a person with a plan like Kevin Feige who actually controls what is going to be said or what is going to be done in these movies and his vision for that. And I think that's why we get really great success out of the MCU. That's the one thing that Warner Brothers is missing. That's the one thing Sony's missing. So now Sony's trying to make their own universe. So they started with Venom, which was funny.
Right.
I mean, and it was okay. And then they did Carnage, which did you like Carnage?
I have to go back and watch it again. I mean,
it was horrible.
I saw it. I do like Woody Harrelson though. I thought he did a good job with that character.
I like Woody Harrelson too, but it's still a horrible movie. It was just bad. And now you have Morbius, which is now the third movie in the Sony Spider-Man universe. So Sony is trying to make a Spider-Man universe, and they have yet to have a Spider-Man. If you know, so from what I hear, Tom Holland hasn't signed anything to come back. So here it is, Sony's making a universe, and they have yet to get themselves a Spider-Man. So the next movie is going to be Kraven the Hunter, and how are they going to handle that part? So I just feel like this movie really, really missed the mark.
What I don't get, so I don't want to skip to the end, but like Morbius had nothing to do with the Sinister Six.
No, he didn't.
So they're shoehorning him in. Who's he? So you already got Doc Ock. You already got Sandman.
Right.
You already have Electro. You have
Lizard.
Was Lizard in it?
I don't know if the Lizard was in the original Sinister Six. I mean, but but look, it's well, you know what? Let's talk about because again, this movie's such a mess. So sure, why not go back and forth on this thing?
Here, hold on. So Doc Ock, Vulture, or what you have, Electro, Mysterio, Sandman, and Kraven Hunter. So all these characters. So is he gonna just? They're gonna just like X out Mysterio and make pretend he doesn't exist and just.
No, exactly. I mean, look, Mysterio's dead, so I mean, but they have been.
He died in the end of the? I can't remember.
Yeah, he died, but keep in mind that I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe from another universe he'll come. Mysterio all of a sudden shows up because now with the whole multiverse of madness and stuff, you could retcon anything that actually happened.
Sandman was the leader of the Sinister Six. I don't remember that.
Really? I didn't remember that either. But that being said, so I thought, let's get into like the after credits. First of all, here's what gets me about this movie. So when this movie got announced and we saw the trailer, we saw Michael Keaton, the Vulture, in prison talking to Morbius.
Right.
They completely took that out of this movie.
Okay, wait. So okay, let's spin it back for a second. Let's talk about how halfway through the movie, and like this movie's only an hour and 48 minutes, I think.
Right.
But as with any comic book movie, like you get amped up and you drink a lot of whether it be soda or in my case diet lemonade. And like the 8-gallon.
Okay, I'm interested to see how these relate. Go ahead.
The 8-gallon cup you get, I usually get like through the 25 minutes of credits, I'm like halfway done with that. So usually about 45 minutes into a movie, I have to go use the bathroom, and I walked out like during the part where like he was getting chased by the cops. I'm like, this is gonna go on for another like 5 minutes. It's gotta be. And I literally, I went, took care of business, got another drink, and like if it took 4 minutes, it's a lot. And I sit down in my seat, and I felt so disjointed from the movie because like I didn't know what the hell was going on, what happened. So I either like missed way more than I thought I did. Like maybe I went into a coma when I went and got my drink. I don't know, but like. In that like 4 to 5 minutes I walked out, I lost track of everything going on in the movie because I came back and he was already out of prison and he was fighting he was chasing down Milo, and I was like, what the hell did I like? I gotta go back and see that little patch. But like my first thought was, I'm like, oh man, I missed the whole scene that I really wanted to see, which was him and Vulture talking.
No,
Adrian
yeah,
Toomes.
well, you would think that was going to happen. That never happened.
And they took it out. So I was like, so I didn't miss. I was like, well, then what the hell did I miss? But apparently, like that's how disjointed this movie is. Like, it's not
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I mean, Look, I mean, that scene was cut out, and then all of a sudden we have a scene with. So here's how the scene went. Towards the end, all of a sudden, you see the skyline with this big crack, I guess, in the time, with time and stuff like that, time and space.
Multiverse rift, yeah.
Yeah, the whole multiverse rift. And Adrian Toomes all of a sudden shows up in a prison. He goes, wait a minute, this is not my prison, or something like that. So they let him go. You would think Adrian Toomes, who in Spider-Man, he had a family, he had a daughter, his wife, and everything. You would think he's like, oh, where is my family? Right? So maybe they're going to touch upon that. But, just the way they showed it is like, oh, no, let me go get my Vulture outfit from where? Because that Vulture outfit that he had was from the other universe. And all that technology was from the Chitauri in the Avengers, which he recovered. So how the hell did he get himself a Vulture outfit in this universe, if in this universe the Avengers and the Chitauri did not happen? How the hell did he get himself that? And also, if you notice, he never took off his helmet, so that was not Michael Keaton, I think.
Oh, good call. Also, this is painful because like I'm looking through the different Sinister Sixes, and apparently there were 16 versions of it. Which that's what makes me angry at comic books. Like, no, they can't like stick with the continuities.
Hey man, it's comics. What do you expect?
They're just like, hey, guess what? We're gonna start a new line. And we're gonna put amazing in front of it. And now it's a new continuity. Have fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
give me $5 an issue.
Yeah, DC is actually notorious for that, especially lately. So
that's why I stopped. I really I just got in the mail I guess they killed off the Justice League, so I got that issue.
Right.
So I don't know how, but I just bought it.
So here's a character that all of a sudden is has this disease, and I like that part of the movie where it kind of showed him trying to figure these things out. He's working for I guess a hospital where he's trying to come up with a cure for kids. So you could tell that this guy has some kind sympathetic, has some kind of emotions in him. And that part I liked. I like that little bit of that of what they showed. Then next thing of course they he finds it. He thinks he could find this cure, but he has to do human trials, and he has to do it, of course, in a boat or in a ship outside of the United States, or nowhere near United States waters.
Yeah.
He becomes the vampire. And then, like I said, at that point, it should have become a horror film. But instead, it just seemed like this okay scene. It was like, oh, okay, he's killing people. You didn't see any gore. I mean, if you look at his claws and you look at his teeth, those people should have been, shredded to bits. So you don't see any of that. So for me, that missed the mark. To me, it was like, all right, that's kind of boring. I didn't like that part of it. But, then, and let's talk about the effects, dude.
Well, hey, hold on. There's one part I've been dying, dying so much to talk about, because, and even I haven't even brought up speaking to you on the side about this, but the scene that makes Tobey Maguire's dance sequence in Spider-Man 3 seem in place, which is Milo doing his dance. And I'm like that's I legitimately I don't think I've ever walked out of a movie theater that pushed me pretty close to the edge. Like if the damn seats at AMC weren't so comfortable, I would have got up. I'm like, I can't with this shit, and walked out.
Yeah, no, it's funny because you would think Sony would have learned from the first, from the first time they did that with Spider-Man. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, let's do it again.
So bad. It made no sense to the story. It was a waste of money because they just pumped like probably $5 million into doing an effect sequence on the dude's face for no reason. And the effects on his face were awful. Like that poor guy is a really good actor too.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that because when you look at it, you could tell that they did not wear any prosthetics.
Yeah.
All they did was digitize the vampire face on them, and it was bad. There were certain times that Morbius, and they had that on the trailer when Morbius looks to, out of the corner of his eyes. I remember when I first saw that, I said, wow, they really nailed down the character on how he looks. That looks awesome. After that, the CG on this thing was just horrible. The smoke effects made no fucking, sense whatsoever. It was just there to make it look pretty.
Yeah, the train sequence when he's like, I'm going to learn how to fly in front. Like reverse draft a train. Like I'm like I still don't know how the physics of that works. I'm a man. I do like science, and I honestly don't know how that
there's nothing in this movie that makes sense with any kind of science. But yeah, that was the other thing. Well, because in the comic book he flies, right? But there was no reason to make him fly. Like honestly, they could have kept that part out of it. If you want to make him jump really high, or or he could climb, whatever it is, would have been better than him flying. Because all of a sudden he's like Superman. It was like, all right, I'm just gonna fly, in a draft of air. It's like, no, come on, man.
It's like they saved some of the effects from oh God, what's the character? He's one of my favorite characters too. I don't know why I can't remember his name from X-Men.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah, it's like they literally like, hey, let's break out those effects again. Let's do that real quick. And that's what they used.
It kind of looked like that, right? It kind of looked like it kind of looked like the teleportation effect, but then with wind in order to make it look like it's trailing or something like that. It was just weird. It was just such a weird effect that they put on him. And then when the movie starts, you see, Milo and you see Michael Morbius. They're kids and they're friends, and that part was like, okay, I'll still accept that. The part where you had like 4 kids all of a sudden beating up on a crippled kid, that part just like, okay, that's a little too much. I mean, where will you see shit like this? But it's trying to establish how I guess all the things that he went through, all the things that he was going through, and since a kid, I don't know, it made no sense. Like for me, that was a part of the movie that did not even need to be there. I didn't need to know him, when he was young. If you wanted to say, hey, him and Milo, knew each other since they were, kids, sure, say that. But that was just a sequence that did not need to be there.
I think they did that just to build him up, like as he was going to be the eventual villain of the movie, which. Like it's so hard, like just trying to wrap your head around it. Like Morbius is a villain, but they humanized him with that sequence where they made him like the person that he grew up to be to help fix his friend. And his friend said, hey, guess what, I'm gonna do this shit on my own. I'm gonna become super vampire and kill people. And then he had to fight for the right, and then he had to just so much twistedness to the actual story.
Right.
Matter of fact, what happened to that stupid I'm sorry for PETA people out there. What happened to that nice little mouse they used, that he injected and it came back to life? How come that thing didn't start sucking blood out of things? So like, that's what doesn't make sense. Like there's so many things like that would have been a cool sequence. Like all of a sudden, like they pan back and like that mouse is back in the cage with other mice, and like all those mice are dead and drained. Right. And then they would be like just foreshadowing to like, oh, this is bad, don't do it, dude. But he already did it, so.
Right, exactly. No, there was a lot of things that were not everything from like having that sequence of when he was young. I mean, and you're right. Like they're trying to humanize him and everything, but it was just I don't know. I just felt like this movie just did not make sense. It just felt like they were just they wrote it. And here's what gets me, right? When this movie first came out, or when this movie was in development, one of the things that I read was that they were interviewing different directors for this. And one of the people that was actually interviewing these directors was Jared Leto. Why the fuck did he all of a sudden become the person that was making the choices here? So it seems to me, so let's talk about that. I mean, Jared Leto being he's actually a very good actor. He has, he's a little bit eccentric from what I've seen, but hey, artist, what artist is not? Again, great. He's a great actor, but his journey into getting into some kind of comic book movie just hasn't been great. He tried to do, yeah, he tried to do Joker. That didn't work out very well. Now he tried to do Morbius, and this movie is not good, good at all. So it's like, Jared, this is not your thing. Give up, or please, studios, do not let him be in another comic book movie. Use him in whatever artsy fartsy movie you have to use him in, or whatever the movie that he's actually pretty good. But this is not just his thing. And again, he's a great artist. I have seen him in a lot of movies that I think he does phenomenal work. This one, his portrayal in the beginning was actually very good. I just think that if he had a hand in making some of the choices of what happened, that wasn't that very good. It just, so I find that strange. I found it that, hey, Jared Leto is the one that was just really, trying, I guess making some calls here, which I feel like, that's the problem with, again, all these studios like Sony, Warner Brothers, where you don't have the person that says, hey, this is the plan from this point on, and we have to follow it this way in order for us to get a successful universe out of it. Kevin Feige did that with with Marvel, did it very well, and as Marvel became a lot more successful and the movies became a lot more popular, he was able to grow that and actually, make that vision of his just grow bigger and bigger. But there was always a direction to go, and to do that, you have to kind of follow, I guess, what he puts it, in place. Here, you have Sony trying to do its own thing, which we know that they have not been very successful on it. Warner Brothers did the same thing. I mean, that's why Warner Brothers, all of a sudden just it's a fucking mess when it comes to their universe. So, yeah, so for me, the fact that Jared Leto, and again, his character, I mean, him as a director, I mean, as an actor is great, but he should not have had, I mean, and again, that's what I'm reading. From what I'm reading is the fact that if he wasn't happy with the director, and he had to actually do, interviews with directors, that means that he was pulling too much of the string. The studio should have said, listen, this is the director we're going. This is the way we're going. You could either be on board or get off. So, but it's interesting. But that being said, what do you think of Tyrese?
It was just a way. I mean, I'm glad the man got the paycheck. Like,
that's basically what it was.
There was no reason for him to be in the movie. Like that character was. Is that supposed to turn into something?
I don't know. Did you notice he had a metal arm? It's like, all right, what's the story behind that? Like, he had a cybernetic arm at the and I know like he was at a war or something, but all of a sudden a cybernetic arm. Where did that cybernetic arm come from?
I don't know. Let's see if I can find any information on that. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so he had a cybernetic arm towards the end of the movie. He was playing Simon Stroud, an FBI agent hunting, Michael. So Gibson noted that the character is white in the comic book, so I guess it is a comic book character, and that the producer made him black to cast Gibson, which I don't have a problem with that at all. Stroud has a high-tech weapon-grade arm in the film, and Gibson describes him as a superhero. Really? Because he only came out as he just looked like, you know.
I honestly didn't even notice that, dude.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Oh, he's on Earth 616, so that's the most of the Marvel universe that I know.
Oh, probably so. I mean, again, I don't think, again, they took a character that, man, they could have developed him a little bit more too. So he has a cybernetic arm, and it's supposed to be a weapons grade arm and stuff like that. So, they didn't show that. And
he teams up with Morbius at some point. I'm just ripping through his the Marvel database profile.
Right. No, look, bottom line, this movie,
he didn't get enough screen time to make it an important character.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, he might, in that 5 minutes I walked out to use the bathroom, he might have been on screen a lot more, but
no, I think he wasn't actually. I mean, I think he was being interviewed in the. Did you see the interview with the when he was in the interrogation room?
No, that's what I'm saying. I think I missed a quarter of the movie somehow.
Yeah, so it was maybe 2 or 3 minutes long, something like that, and that was it. And Michael Morbius, showed a little bit of the vampiric face, that visual effect they put on there, and they're like, what the hell did you do to yourself? And that was about it. I mean, so this movie for me is, again, I mean, look, bottom line, I mean, and we're not doing a deep dive into this movie. I mean, there are other reviewers and podcasters have gone really deep into this, and I feel like, you know what, this is just more of, hey, this is our review of this movie, which I feel is sucked. I'm sure this movie will go on our list, and we will see. I mean, look, we're going to put this movie on our list, basically, and we're going to do a deep dive into this movie after this whole thing. We're going to see what the next few weeks brings for this movie. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come out about behind the scenes, things that probably, that have not been said yet. And I'm sure we're going to find out about those things. We're going to find out to see, did this movie succeed? We know it hasn't succeeded with the reviewers. I mean, this thing has a 16% in Rotten Tomatoes, but audience score is 70%, which is crazy.
We have a lot of dumb people in this country.
Exactly. So I feel like, we'll definitely review this movie when, when we give it some time and stuff like that. And, we could probably, hear a little bit more about what went on behind the scenes. And, who got their hands in this and what other, because there's always a dirty laundry that comes out way later. And that's the thing that I definitely want to hear about that. Because usually stuff like that is what contributes to sometimes either the success or the failure of a movie, I believe. But yeah, no. So this movie, again, not very good. Not very. It wasn't a good. I mean, if I had to sum it up, it's like this: Morbius is a character who has a rare blood disease. He's a doctor who tries to find his own cure with vampire bat's DNA. Turns into a vampire. Gets chased by the police because he killed a whole bunch of people in a ship. His best friend, who also has the same disease, gets jealous, so steals the serum that he came up with, and now Morbius is trying to stop him because he's become a raging, murdering lunatic. Kills his friend at the end. The end? And that's it? The end? I mean, did I sum it up pretty much the way it is?
I mean, you put a nice little bow on that and everything. I mean,
yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, it's it's an okay story. I
It's
will
just
say this.
it's just too choppy.
It is. I mean, even Milo's death at the end just had no there was no emotion to it. There was no, or you finally got the bad guy or something like that. It just did not evoke any kind of emotional reaction at all.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was like, I was halfway like going, "Oh, is the real bad guy going to show up now?" Because he got that out of the way, and nothing
yeah,
happened. It was
no,
over.
yeah, no, he dispatched them so easy. Like it was like, oh, okay, that's it. And I would have thought, okay, something else is gonna happen. Like if you remember on Blade, Wesley Snipes slices uh Deacon Frost in half. Remember that? And like
Yep.
and then all of a sudden, his body. I mean, it was a cheesy, shitty effects, but still, we still enjoyed it back then. And all of a sudden, his body goes in two ways, and then all of a sudden, it goes right back and gets together, and that's when you're like, "Oh shit!" There was none of that here. This guy died, and that was it. So it was like, okay, whatever. So yeah, no, it's just again, this movie is so folks, this movie, I mean, if you're gonna waste your money to see it, be warned. And again, 70% of the audience liked it out there, so a lot of people might actually like it. I know that all the critics really went really hard on this movie. But is it entertaining? It's I say it's better than Carnage. That's what I would say.
I'd say it's in the same boat. Yeah, I just God bless A-list. And being able to see different movies every week and not, because honestly, like one movie's worth the price of admission for the whole month, and if you see one bad movie out of 8 or 4, depending on how many you go to, it's not bad. Like
Right.
And it's not. It wasn't terrible. I mean, honestly, like before this was the Batman, so it's kind of hard to live up to what that ended up being.
Right.
And I don't remember. I can go through.
I mean, we had 2 successful superhero movies. We had Spider-Man, the Spider-Man movie that came out. What is it? No Way Home, and then you have the Batman. So 2 great movies. I mean, and then you have something like Spider-Man, which is of course of the same universe as Morbius, and that made so much damn money. And so successful that I think Sony was just like, hey, we're going to ride on that success. Nope. No. You guys got it all wrong. So this one, I was even thinking of going a second time just to see if I truly did see what I saw.
Oh, no, you did.
And I decided, no, I'm not going to do it. Even if I could get in, I got the AMC, that AMC membership that I could see 3 or 4 movies a week for free or whatever it is. And yeah, even with that, I won't see it. I won't waste that free ticket. I just can't do it. It was pretty, yeah. It's just, again, not a good movie. And then in the end, his girlfriend becomes a vampire. You saw that?
Yeah. I mean, like her best resort is if she just killed herself, to avoid any sequel.
God, I hope there's no sequel to this. I mean, Kraven the Hunter is going to be very interesting to see on that. See what they come out with. But we'll see. I guess we'll just have to see what happens, and we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. Do you know that the director did not know that in the trailer where Morbius passes, was like in the street, passing by like this brick building where you see the Spider-Man poster? He didn't know that was in the movie, and he had them take it out for the release.
It's so dumb.
So again, that's what I'm saying. Again, this is something where too many people had their hands in it, and some people thought something was a good idea, and then again, it's a mess. It's but yeah. So yeah, this our review for Morbius, not not as coherent as the movie, well, or as coherent as the movie is. It's all over the place, but it's not a movie that I did not like. That's our review for Morbius. So our review, you know what? I think we should come up with a rating system. What do you think?
Let's do it right now. What are we gonna do?
Like 1 star could be the 1 star is like, hey, I'd rather be getting a root canal kind of thing. I don't know, man. We're gonna have to come up with with something. We'll probably do it the next time, but yeah. So far, I mean, if I could give it 2 thumbs down, sure, I'm sure we would. Or what would you give it? 1 star or 2 stars?
How many stars can we go up to?
Well, normally it's 5 stars, but
all right. If it was 15 stars, I would give it 2 stars.
Oh, so in other words, if it's 5 stars, you will give it a 1/4 star.
No, I'd give it 2 stars out of 5. It's like 3 stars would be like cohesive and entertaining. Like 4 would be like I was happy I saw it. 5 would be like I literally I want to cheer like I'm rooting for like my favorite football team or baseball team.
Yeah, 5 is amazing. 5 to me, 5 would be amazing, and then there's the super rare 6. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
where it's like, listen, this movie is groundbreaking. I mean, this thing actually is going to change cinema from this point on. So that's how I see it. I mean, very little movies that I think there are 6, but this movie to me is like a 1.5 star. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's like every time I see like The Godfather, it's like I'm seeing it for the first time. It's still so good.
Oh, that's a 6 right there. That's a movie that deserves a 6. You can only go up to 5. It's like saying, hey, the volume from 1 to 10, it's an 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So that's exactly how that is. But yeah, so this is our review for Morbius. So thank you so much for joining us. So if you have any questions, or you have, if you were trying to find us, we can be found on Facebook under Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, on Twitter at Fantasy Picks ME. On Instagram, Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. You can also email us at fantasypicksmovieedition@gmail.com. And like I said, you can find us on most podcast apps like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whatever podcast player of your choice you use. And if a rating is available, please leave us a rating. And if you want to email us and and tell us your thoughts, or if you have any anything you want to tell us, you can either email on the same email. You could direct it to me, Robert, or or Ralph, or Joe, and let us know what you think. If you feel that there's some room for improvement. Again, this is a new podcast, and we hopefully are going to be here for a long time. But we would love to hear from anybody out there that is listening to us. If there's anybody listening to us. If not, we're just talking over the air by ourselves. So, all right, guys. So, so this is Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, guys.